The first thing to cover is the tools you will need. First is a tapestry or yarn needle. Next, a crochet hook matching the yarn type being used. You'll also need scissors or clippers. Lastly, the yarn you'll be using. Try to make sure the weight of all your colored yarns is the same or close to the same to ensure a smoother finished result. The first thing you'll need to know is how to create a slip knot. If you're not familiar with slip knots, it can be confusing initially. I've included 2 methods of starting one, use whichever works more comfortably for you. I myself tend to alternate based on what mood I'm in. The basic idea is to create a loop through twisting the yarn around an object, and then pulling a strand of yarn through that formed loop and pulling to secure. This sounds funny, but hopefully these clips help clear up any confusion. The chain stitch is a fundamental stitch to learn, as nearly every pattern I've ever completed uses it at least once. Chain stitch is merely taking your hook, grabbing the yarn that's still attached to the skein, and pulling it through to create a new stitch. The next fundamental stitch is a double crochet in US terms, or a treble crochet in UK terms. This stitch introduces the concept of yarn over. Yarn over is exactly what it sounds like, taking the yarn and wrapping it over your hook. To double crochet you will yarn over, insert your hook into the appropriate chain, yarn over again, and pull through one loop. I like to call this anchoring the stitch. You should now have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over again and pull through 2 of the loops. Lastly, yarn over once more and pull through the remaining loops so you only have 1 loop on your hook. Another concept introduced by double crochet is posts. You'll notice how this stitch is longer and has what are called posts due to the length of the stitch. You can use posts to create some really neat textural effects by going around them in various directions. Once you've got your first block done, you might wonder what comes next. It's actually really simple, chain 6 again and start the process all over. When you finish the block this time, you'll have 2 blocks sort of hinging, which leads to the next fundamental stitch, a slip stitch. With a slip stitch you will insert your hook into a chain, or sometimes around a post, and yarn over. Pull that yarn over through all the loops, so that only one remains on your hook. The next step can be confusing because now you need to keep track of where you are in the pattern. For this video, I'm creating a 3x3 block, so I'll need another block to finish this diagonal row. Instead of chaining 6, you will chain 3 to mimic a double crochet stitch length. Instead of inserting your hook to a stitch after the first yarn over, you simply poke the hook through the post and yarn over, pull under the post, and yarn over again to create that anchor. Something to note as you start working a corner-to-corner blanket is that your blocks will alternate directions. This is normal, and to be expected for this type of project. Unless you decide to make a solid colored blanket, you'll need to learn how to change colors. The methods to do this vary vastly based on personal preference. After you slip stitch the color that is being used, leave a tail and clip the yarn. Take the new yarn color and use your preferred method to start a slip knot. You'll then insert the hook into the old color loop and grab the new color through the slip knot. Pull the slip knot through and tighten both the old and new color to secure the knot and allow you to continue stitching. From here, you chain 3 and continue to double crochet for the block before slip stitching once more. In the case of our 3x3 block, you'll do one more color change back to the original color to finish out the design. You'll see me refer to the terms decrease and maintain in my patterns. This means one edge of your blanket will now have slip stitches on the sides of the block designating a blanket edge. You'll need to slip stitch 3 times to get back to the corner of the block to start the next one. If you have a hard time maneuvering the hook to do the initial slip stitch, chain 1 and then slip stitch 3 times. Decrease indicates the need to slip stitch on both edges of your rows, as the number of stitches per row will decrease. Usually this means you are more than halfway done. Finally, you've finished all your blocks and it's time to stop making new ones. This means you are ready to learn how to fasten off, which really means to end the cycle of chains and loops. To fasten off, you will clip your yarn, leaving a tail. Then pull the now loose tail through the final loop on your hook and pull snug. Ask any crafter that crochets, and they will likely all tell you the same thing. Weaving in ends is the dreaded result of creating blankets, clothes, stuffed animals, etc. with yarn. The general concept is that you now have all these loose tails that make one side of your project look, well, unfinished. You'll need to take your tapestry or yarn needle, thread it with each tail, and weave the tail into the project to secure it and hide the loose ends. A good woven-in tail rarely slips loose, even after washing the item countless times. When you are satisfied the tail is woven in enough, snip the ends to be flush with the project and move on to the next one.